KT-76 has got a real nice action. It's got a nice weighted feel, and the sounds and the action together are such that it's real easy to play. It's real easy for me to play and sort of get lost in the sounds.
The sounds on here are so good, they just make you play the right stuff. If you're playing that trumpet, you forget what you're playing. Now you're a trumpet player, and in your mind, that's what the sounds make you do. May make your style change, and that's a good thing for the keyboard to have. I guess the real way of putting it, if the sounds cheesy, you're going to play that way, you know? If it sounds good, you're going to play good. That's the way I do it.
One of the nicest things about Ensoniq gear and about Ensoniq as a company is that the company is based right here in the United States. It's a great support system to have when you're using a piece of gear.
The whole Ensoniq thing made it easy to work. I can't stress that enough.
Thanks and congratulations on your purchase of the KT. We're certain you'll find it a powerful and easy-to-use tool for expressing your musical creativity. Thanks also for your purchase of the EVS-6 instructional video. In this session, we'll teach you everything you need to know to begin making music with the KT, including selecting sounds, creating sequences, stringing sequences together to make songs, and saving your information. To get the most out of this video, we recommend that you situate yourself and your KT so that you can follow along on your keyboard as steps are demonstrated on the video. Also, if you have a PCM-CIA RAM storage card, you'll want to have it available too. Toward the end of the video, we'll show you how to store data on it. If you don't have one, don't worry. You won't need it for most of the session. We'll begin our tutorial by reinitializing the KT. Reinitialization is accomplished by pressing the Edit Sequence Preset button, then the upper 9 button and the lower 9 button simultaneously. Do this now. Then press Enter Yes to carry out the command. This restores the internal sounds that were shipped with the keyboard and ensures that you're starting with a clean slate for our session. If you've already created your own internal sounds, sequences, or presets, be sure to save them to a storage card before beginning this procedure, as initialization will erase them. After reinitializing, the first sound that comes up is the KT Grand Piano. Take a moment to enjoy this realistic piano. Above the sound's name is information about its specific location. The letters R-ROM mean that this sound resides in the read-only memory of the KT. ROM sounds are permanent and cannot be altered by the user. There are a total of 100 ROM sounds in the KT. Included in this bank are 20 drum sets, 10 Ensoniq, and 10 General MIDI. The 00 part of the display is the page number of the sound. Each sound is assigned a 2-digit page number. One way to select sounds for playing is to enter their page number using the upper and lower screen buttons. This procedure is referred to as direct dialing. Go ahead and select some different ROM sounds by direct dialing their page number with the upper and lower screen buttons. Another way to select sounds is with the upper and lower value buttons. Pressing the up value button takes you to the next higher page number and sound in the ROM bank. Pressing the down value button takes you to the next lower page number and sound within the bank. A third way to find sounds is with Sound Finder. Sound Finder allows you to quickly locate sounds of a similar type, piano-type sounds, for example, with the push of a button. Let's select some sounds with Sound Finder. First, direct dial the KT grand piano by pressing the upper 0 button and then the lower 0 button. Now, press the right Sound Finder button once. The KT selects the sound Piano and Strings, located on page 09. If you continue pressing the Sound Finder buttons, the KT will respond by locating other sounds of the same type, pianos in this case. To find other groups of similar sounds, simply locate a sound of the type you wish to find, and then use the Sound Finder buttons to select other sounds of that type. So far, we've been selecting from among the 100 available ROM sounds. In addition to these, there are 80 more in a different bank called Internal Memory. Press the Bank button once to switch to this bank. Once you've done this, you can select sounds in the same way as you selected ROM sounds, by direct dialing, using the upper and lower value buttons or using Sound Finder. Notice also that when you use Sound Finder, it will locate sounds of the same type regardless of what bank they're located in, internal or ROM. As you explored the internal and ROM sounds, you may have noticed that pages 80 through 99 contain drum sounds, and that these are the same in both banks. Drums are a special sound category in the KT. They're specially programmed to put the KT's full percussion power at your fingertips. Let's select some drum sounds. Press the upper 8 button and the lower 0 button to select the first drum sound, Rock Hit EM. Since the drum sounds are part of any bank you call up, there's no ROM or internal designation in the upper left corner of the display. Drum sounds have their own abbreviation, R-Drum. In most drum sounds, there's a different instrument on every key of the keyboard. Play the highest key on the keyboard to hear hand claps. Play the lowest key to hear a punchy bass drum. Now, try all the keys in between. Select some other drum sounds in locations 80 through 99, and be sure to check out all the keys on the keyboard for each sound. There's a lot to hear. When you're done, press the upper 0 and lower 0 button to return to the KT grand piano. Now that you know how to find and select sounds on the KT, let's see how we can create variations on those sounds. We'll start by demonstrating some commonly used KT modulators. Press the Bank button once to select the internal bank. Then press the upper 7 button and the lower 9 button to select Tutorial Sound. Softly play a few notes. See how quiet it is? Now play harder. The volume of tutorial sound changes as you play the keys with greater force. This is one example of a modulator. Another commonly used modulator is the pitch bend wheel, located in the lower left corner of the keyboard. Play a chord on the keyboard. While holding the keys down, slowly rotate the pitch bend wheel away from you. This modulator bends the pitch upward. Now do the same thing, only rotate the wheel toward you. In this case, the pitch bends downward. Located immediately to the right of the pitch bend wheel is the modulation wheel. Play a chord, and while holding it down, rotate the modulation wheel away from you. Notice how the breathy part of tutorial sound fades away and only the synth component remains. Return the wheel to its original position to restore tutorial sound to its original state. The modulation wheel can be assigned to modulate a wide variety of sound characteristics, including pitch, timbre, volume, effects, and more. Another commonly used modulator is keyboard pressure, or aftertouch. With tutorial sound still selected, play a note. Then, press down a bit harder. In this example, pressure adds vibrato and makes the breathy part of the sound swirl in stereo around your speakers or headphones. Vibrato is the most common use of the pressure modulator, but pressure can be programmed to do a variety of other things too. For a detailed discussion about these and other modulators, see Section 5 of your musician's manual. The transpose keyboard function, located in the upper right corner of the KT's front panel, gives you the ability to control the pitch that will be heard when the keyboard is played, making it behave as if you had shifted your hands up or down the keyboard by the transposition amount. Very useful when you want to play a song in one key but only know how to play it in a different key, or when the singer has limited range. Here's how to use it. Let's choose the KT grand piano. Press the bank button, then press the upper 0 button and the lower 0 button. Play a brief C major chord on the keyboard just to get a sense of what it sounds like. After you've played the chord, hold down the transpose keyboard button. Continue to hold down the button, and while holding it, press the D just above middle C on the keyboard. You'll see a small light go on right above the D printed on the front panel. Let go of both the transpose keyboard button and the D on the keyboard. Now, play your C major again. What you'll hear is D major. On the KT, live keyboard playing can be transposed up by a maximum of 5 semitones or down by a maximum of 6 semitones. The KT's powerful built-in signal processor can produce a variety of effects. Anytime you want to modify or change the effect associated with a particular sound, you will first need to enter the Edit Sound mode. Before we do this, let's go back to our tutorial sound. Press the bank button, then press the upper 7 button and the lower 9 button. Now, enter the Edit Sound mode by pressing the Edit Sound button. As with all KT mode buttons, the LED will light to indicate that the KT is in that mode. Note that the Edit Sound button is labeled with red text. On the KT, the red text indicates the button's function when you're in the Edit Sound mode. Similarly, the blue text indicates the function when you're in the Edit Sequence Preset mode. Press the upper 8 button. Then press the lower 0 button and hold it for a few seconds. The words "warm chamber" will be flashing. meaning that this area of the display is selected for editing. Now press the Up Value button 3 times. A new display appears with the words EQ, DDL, Reverb slowly flashing. Play a few keys on the keyboard. Can you hear how much richer and bigger tutorial sound has become? That's because we've changed its effect. Originally, our sound had a subtle reverberation type effect. Now, we've added an equalizer, a chorus, and a bigger reverb. After you've modified a sound and have it just the way you want it, you'll want to save it. Press the Save button. The display shows you the name of the sound you've modified. This is the screen on which you'll give your sound a name. Press the right cursor button once. The cursor moves underneath the T in tutorial sound. Let's call our new sound Synth Breath. Using the up and down value buttons, change the T to an S. Then move the cursor underneath the U and change it to a Y. You can also use the data entry slider to change a letter. When you want to make a blank space in a name, as in the space where the I was in tutorial sound, simply slide the data entry slider all the way down. Continue until you have spelled Synth Breath. When you're done, press the Save button again. The display shows the location into which your new sound will be saved. In this case, the same position tutorial sound occupied, thus replacing it. You can change the location to which the sound is saved by using the upper and lower 0 through 9 buttons. But for this example, let's accept the default and replace tutorial sound. Press the Save button one more time to confirm the location and carry out the Save Sound procedure. You've just edited and saved your first sound. From now on, or until you reinitialize the KT, Synth Breath will be in the internal sound bank on page 79. As you begin to create your own unique sounds on the KT, you'll undoubtedly use presets. Presets are handy performance memories that allow you to save combinations of sounds, splits, layers, and more for convenient recall at a later time. Presets also form the basis for sequences, which we'll be covering in a few minutes. Creating presets on the KT is easy. Let's try one. Press the lower 1 button. We've just selected the sound, Swell Harp. You may want to play a few notes to familiarize yourself with the way it sounds. Now, press the Make Default Preset button. Notice that 2 lights are active in the Sequencer Preset Track area of the control panel. The button underneath the number 1 is lit, and the number 5 button is flashing. Press the second Sequencer Preset Track button. It's the sound we created, Synth Breath. Then press the first Sequencer Preset Track button. It's the sound, Swell Harp. Press the Replace Track Sound button, and then the upper 1 button and the lower 4 button. This displays the sound, Fretless Bass. Press the Replace Track Sound button again. Then double-click the second button. Now when you play the keyboard, both sounds will play. We've just layered or stacked 2 sounds. Now let's create a keyboard split. Press the Edit Track button. Then hold down the lower 2 button until A0 is flashing on the bottom line of the display. Play the middle C on the keyboard. The A0 changes to a C4. Notice also that C8 is flashing. Play the highest key on the keyboard. This changes the C8 to the note you just played. Play up the keyboard from the bottom. Synth breath is now playing only in the key range we specified. Press the first sequencer preset track button. Now, hold down the lower 2 button until A0 is flashing on the bottom line of the display. Play the lowest key on the keyboard. The A0 changes to the note you just played. Notice also that C8 is flashing. Play the B key that is next to the middle C. The C8 changes to B3. Play up the keyboard from the bottom. Fretless bass is now playing only in the key range we specified. Now press the Select Sequence Preset button. The display shows the location in the sequence preset memory where we've been working. Play up and down the keyboard. Below middle C, fretless bass plays. Above middle C, synth breath plays. This is called a split. Let's rename the preset we've just created. Press the Edit Sequence Preset button. Then press the upper 4 button and the lower 4 button. This display lets us rename our preset. Press the Enter button. Use the cursor buttons in combination with the up and down value buttons or the data entry slider to name your preset 2 Sounds. Take a moment to do this now. When you're finished, press the Enter button. The display confirms that the command was successful. Now that we've renamed our preset, let's save it for future recall. Press the Select Preset Sequence button. Doing this will put the KT in the Select Sequence Preset mode. Press the lower 1 button. This display asks you if you want to save your changes. Press the Yes button. Your preset is now saved to the bank and page number indicated on the screen, and it will remain there until you reinitialize the KT. For information about saving data to external storage media, so it won't be lost when you reinitialize the keyboard, consult your musician's manual. After you've explored the sounds, worked with modulators, and created a few presets, you're probably anxious to get started creating sequences and songs. Before we do, though, let's first see how we select and play existing sequences. On the KT, the procedure for selecting sequences is identical to the procedure for selecting sounds and presets. Make sure you're in the Select Sequence Preset mode. If you're not, simply press the Select Sequence Preset button so that its LED is lit. Next, press the lower 0 button. This selects Tutorial Sequence. If you want to hear the sequence, press play. Press stop when you're finished. The process of creating your own sequence begins with selecting a location in memory. Press the lower 2 button. The display confirms that the currently selected location is available for use. Press the Enter button. The next display prompts you to confirm the location of your new sequence. Press the Yes button. This display asks you to specify the time signature of your sequence. Let's leave it as it is. Press the Yes button twice. The next display that appears is the one on which you give a name to your sequence. Use the cursor buttons in conjunction with the value buttons or the data entry slider to name your sequence. Let's call it My Sequence. When you're finished, press the Enter button. Now that we've picked a location for our sequence and provided it with a name, we're ready to record the first track. Before you record each track, you'll have to pick a sound to record with. Begin by pressing the Replace Track Sound button. The display shows you that the sound Swell Harp is currently assigned to the first track. Using the upper and lower 1 through 9 buttons, select a sound. You can play keys to audition each sound before selecting it for recording. For this example, let's select Studio Guitar on page 00 of the internal sound bank. Do this by pressing the upper 0 button and the lower 0 button. Then press the Replace Track Sound button again to complete the process. Now you're ready to record your first track. While holding down the Record button, press play. The sound you're hearing is the metronome, and it will continue clicking until you stop recording. The higher pitched click is the downbeat. When you're ready, begin playing. When you finish, immediately press stop. The KT responds by asking you if you want to keep the number of bars you've played. If you want to hear your track, press play. The sequence will play over and over until you press stop. Press Enter to keep this first track. To record additional tracks, press the second Sequencer Preset Track button, and then the Replace Track Sound button. Select a sound using the upper and lower 0 through 9 buttons. While holding down the Record button, press play. The display reads, Keep New Track. At this point, you have the option of keeping the new track or keeping the old track. You have this option after recording each track. You can switch between the choices with the up and down value buttons. For our tutorial, press the Enter button when the display reads, Keep New Track. You can record up to 8 sequence tracks on the KT. There are a number of other things you can do to your sequence tracks once you've created them. They include quantizing, a way to correct any timing errors, reorchestrating, a way to change what sound a particular track will play, or simply re-recording a particular track. See your musician's manual or quick start guide for details. After you've recorded a number of tracks, you can chain them together into one song. The KT provides 8 additional song tracks that can run the combined length of your sequences. Creating songs is similar to creating sequences. Before we create a song, however, let's select an existing song and listen to it. Press the Select Sequence Preset button. Next, press the Bank button once. This brings you to the ROM sound bank, as indicated by the letter R in the upper left portion of the display. Now, press the upper 7 button and the lower 0 button. This is the location of the KT demo song. Press play to listen to the song, and the stop button when you're finished. Songs are selected the same way as sequences, using the Bank button and the upper and lower 1 through 9 buttons. Let's create our own song. We begin by selecting a location for the song. Press the Bank button. Press the upper 7 button and the lower 1 button. Press Enter. The next display asks you to confirm the location in which you're creating your new song. Press Yes. The KT now asks you to name your song. Using the left and right cursor buttons in combination with the up and down value buttons or the data entry slider, name your song My Song. When you're finished changing the name, press Enter. Every sequence and song has its own effect. Let's select one for our new song. Press the Edit Sequence Preset button. Press the upper 8 button. Then press the lower 0 button and hold it for a few seconds. Press the up or down value buttons until the display reads EQ Chorus Reverb, meaning that this effect will be used for the song. Now that we've selected an effect, we can begin to assemble the song. Press the upper 3 button and then the lower 6 button. The bottom line of the display should read Edit Song Steps. Press the Enter button. The display shows our song's first step. Press the right cursor button. The bottom line of the display is now flashing. This is the display where we select the first sequence in our song. Let's use the tutorial sequence. Press the up value button until the display reads Tutorial Sequence. Tutorial Sequence is now selected as the first song step. We'll use My Sequence as our second step. Press the left cursor button once so that the step number is flashing again. Press the up value button to change the number 1 to a 2. Now press the right cursor button so that the bottom line of the display is flashing. Now locate My Sequence using the up value button. It is now selected as the second song step. To listen to My Song, press the Select Sequence Preset button and then press play. The song starts with the tutorial sequence and then moves right into My Sequence. The song will play continuously until you press the stop button. Now that you've created a song, you may want to store it to an external source. The KT uses industry-standard PCM CIA memory cards for sound and sequence data storage. the same type used by many notebook computers. Consult Section 13 of the Musician's Manual for more details. Once you have a PCM-CIA card, storing KT sound and sequence data on it is easy. Insert the card into the KT's card slot located just above the pitch and mod wheels. Press the Edit Sequence button. Then press the upper 9 button. The display asks you to press Enter to confirm your command. Press Enter. The words Memory Card should be slowly flashing on the bottom line of the display. Press Enter. The display now offers 4 choices regarding source and the destination of the data to be saved. Use the value buttons to select I, int, to A card. This instructs the KT to save all sounds, presets, and sequences currently in the internal bank, as well as the location of our song and sequence data to the A side of the card. If you already have data stored on your card, be sure to store it in another location, as this procedure will overwrite any data that may be on that side of the card. Press Enter to carry out the transfer of data. This concludes our brief tour of the KT 64-voice weighted action keyboards. We hope it has given you the confidence to explore further the many capabilities and features of the KT. As you explore, don't forget to check out the Musician's Manual. It contains detailed descriptions and procedures for using all of the KT's functions and features. Most of all, have fun.
The KT-76 has got a real nice action. It's got a nice weighted feel, and the sounds and the action together are such that it's really easy to play. It's really easy to play and sort of get lost in the sounds.
The sounds on here are so good, they just make you play the right stuff. If you're playing that trumpet, you forget what you're playing. Now you're a trumpet player, and in your mind, that's what the sounds make you do. They make your style change, and that's a good thing for the keyboard to have. I guess the real way of putting it, if the sound's cheesy, you're going to play that way, you know? If the sound's good, you're going to play good. That's the way I do it.